Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 9th June 2020, and these are the couple of articles we'll be dealing today. The first article for the day is taken from the Indian Express and it is written by Mr. Raj Mohan. It is about the influence that China is exerting in South Asia right now. It's titled, "It's Not About America." So you already know that on the line of actual control, or simply called LAC, which is a border between India and China, China has been exhibiting certain aggression. Recently, there has also been media reports from China that the Chinese military is mobilizing its forces to deploy in the LAC area and it is getting ready for a fight. Now, when one tries to understand why is China, out of all the times in this present COVID crisis, why is it ready to show its aggression on various countries? So one of the simplistic explanation is to say that it is doing all this to counter US. This article writer says that this is not about USA or America, and it is about exerting its influence in South Asia region. So it is an oversimplification of the fact that if someone tries to explain the aggression of China through the lens of USA, it is an oversimplification according to this author. So what is the reason as to why China is exhibiting this? Let us analyze. Now in this context, we have to take the dispute of Natuna Islands, a recent spat in the South Asia region, which is under Indonesia's control. So this Indonesia's latest Natuna Island spat with China should be a wake-up call for Southeast Asia. So in December 2019, before the Chinese New Year, China and Indonesia have been facing off the sovereignty battle in Jakarta's Riau Islands. This is in South China Sea. So Jakarta's exclusive economic zone. What do you mean by exclusive economic zone? It is a 200 nautical mile zone within which it is given special rights to exploit marine resources, and this overlaps with China's the 9-dash line, which is again Beijing's assertion of rights over 90% of the South China Sea area. This is a point of contention. So this means the core of the ongoing dispute between the two countries, that is China and Indonesia, boils down to resource exploitation rights. Now why is Natuna Islands very famous? This area has huge reserves of oil and gas, and especially natural gas. That is the reason why China is interested in these islands. Time and again, China is notorious for declining that it will adhere to international laws. In this case, we are talking about United Nations Convention on the Law of Sea. This convention says that both Beijing and Jakarta have signed and ratified, and therefore the Chinese claim is not valid in this context. But China says that historically this territory has been a part of China. So all these reasons have been responsible for tensions. Now how is this Natuna Islands fitting into the larger picture, and how is it related to India? This Natuna Islands is an example that China will claim even if it is not historically related to China. For example, to explain further, Natuna Islands is nearly 1500 kilometers away from Beijing. So historically there are no solid claims that this island belongs to China. However, it is showing its aggression upon Indonesia, and it is forcing Indonesia to accept that Natuna Islands belong to them. Another example is that of Manila and Philippines. Philippines is a country which has stakes in the South China Sea region, but time and again China has been coercing Philippines to give up these rights, and incidentally Philippines happens to be one of the largest allies in Asia for United States. So it is trying to exert its influence over Philippines, and it has been coercing various other countries in a similar way. So what this tells us is the fact that the LAC border skirmishes that we are witnessing on the border of India and China is a pattern exhibited by China across the region. All it wants is to exert its influence in the entire Southeast Asia, South China, and South Asia region. So, this is what explains the grand ambition of China to be a global leader, and it is also a part of how China wants to exert its influence across the globe. So, this is a not an isolated event, but it is a picture that fits into the larger ambitions of Chinese ambition to be a global leader. Therefore, India must stop looking at this border issue with China as an issue to counter USA. That is a very narrow explanation, but you have to look at it as a broader agenda of China, and therefore it is the duty of India to support the democratic rights of all the countries in the South China Sea region. That is the gist of this article. The second article for the day is taken from the Hindu, and it is titled The Critical Role of Decentralized Responses. So, the COVID-19 crisis has shown the importance of local governments. It is not possible for a centralized body to coordinate different issues at grassroots levels, and therefore empowering the local self-governments, which has been the agenda for those who advocate decentralized governments. This is a best opportunity to have a look at how decentralized responses can help managing this crisis. One of the most important aspects for decentralized governance is access to financial resources. Now, we all know that at the grassroots level and also after GST at the state level, the ability to garner financial resources for various activities to be taken up is very restricted. It is in this context the author of this article says that the restrictions posed by the central government to avail enhanced borrowing from 3.5 to 5% of GSDP, this conditionalities reflects that it is very narrow in its perspective. I mean, the central government has been narrow in its perspective to empower the local governments. However, the recognition that local government should be fiscally empowered is a valid signal that future of local governance is must and should for handling any sort of crisis from now on. Therefore, this article is trying to suggest how to improve this financial condition of local bodies. So, if we generally talk about the grassroots level institutions, they generally have three problems. First one is the financial problem. Second one is there is no clarity on what are the functions assigned to these bodies, because they vary from state to state, and most often they are very ad hoc in nature depending upon the government that is in power. The third problem is capacity building. These local level institutions don't have the manpower to get the job done. So, there is a significant need for capacity building in these institutions. Another problem is, if we take a look at the urban local bodies, it has the ability to collect up to 44% of the taxes through property tax. If you take the same case with local bodies in rural areas or say panchayats, they don't have the capacity to collect this much tax because the scope for property tax is pretty low in these areas. So, they collect only 5% of the tax. But ironically, a significant amount of population resides in village areas, and it is these villages that needs more and more amount of funds. Otherwise, the problem is you see a migration from villages to states. Unless and until proper facilities are developed in these areas, proper infrastructure is developed, the local population would be forced to move out of their areas. So, the second aspect that this article is trying to focus upon is MP LAT scheme. The article writer says that it is a welcome step that the union government decided to suspend this scheme, because this scheme has an annual budget of around 4,000 crores, and union government has appropriated the entire collection along with the huge non-lapsable arrears. So, all these funds will be used for COVID-19 pandemic. However, the problem here is there is no mention of building health infrastructure and disease control strategies at a local level by finance minister in any of the packages, despite the 15th finance commission suggesting that more and more funds should reach the grassroots level institutions. So this is the problematic issue, and the author feels that the government would do well to increase allocations for local level bodies, and this is the first step that the government must do. The author also suggests that there should be increase in grants for local level bodies, and these funds should be shared both by the center and state in a 50:50 ratio. The next step is about how to handle this epidemic in future. The present Disaster Management Act does not explicitly recognize epidemics, although several parts of India experienced various bouts of flu in the past. So this current pandemic has forced the government to take ad hoc measures with respect to disaster management. Now, in order to recognize that these kind of mistakes does not repeat in the future, the government would do well to recognize pandemics also as a part of disaster management, and they should do a exercise wherein they map various areas which have a disaster risk, and these areas should be inculcated in calculation of a disaster risk index and map these vulnerable areas. So this mapping is the next prerequisite thing that should be taken up by the government in the face of this pandemic. That is the gist of this article. In short, what is required is funds, functions and functionaries for local self-governments to see efficacy of these responses in the light of COVID-19 crisis. That is what the article is trying to say. That's it for the day. Thank you.